heart of modern Belfast has many surprises. The city hosts one of the world's largest collections of Rabbie Burns material in the Linen Hall Library's Gibson collection.
Today we're going to explore some of the treasures of the collection and find out what is down here in the first place.
I'm Ali, a writer for Scotland. With the help of librarian Samantha and other friendly Ulster faces, we're taking a deep dive into the content and context of the fascinating Gibson collection and the Linen Hall Library itself.
So we are in the Linen Hall Library, described by the poet Michael Longley as the soul of Belfast. Its official name is the Belfast Library and Society for Promoting Knowledge. I think of the Linen Hall as Belfast's living room. It's a place to read, think, debate, form an opinion, change an opinion, and be part of a conversation that has been going on for centuries. So Robert Burns is part of the fabric of the Linen Hall Library. We have his statue. He features in a stained glass window. He looks down on us from his portraits on the wall. But of course, most importantly, in terms of Burns, is the Gibson collection. Andrew Gibson was from Newcomnock in Ayrshire. He was one of the prominent Belfast Scots. He was president and vice president of various Scottish societies, including the Belfast Burns Club. It has been noted that he wished to own a copy of every edition of Burns in existence, and he created this incredible collection, which was valued and would have been worth in the region of £250,000 in today's money, was made available for sale at around half that amount, on the condition that it was available and used for the benefit of the people of Belfast.
Appetite whetted, it was time to explore. My Ulster-Scots pen pal, broadcaster and blogger Mark Thompson joined me. Like Wayne's in a sweet shop, we roved the collection and picked each other out a few favourites. Mark began with Gibson's own journal of his collection.
Yeah, so Andrew Gibson is collecting Burns editions from all over the world. New York's in there, various places in Germany are in there, places in England are in there, of course, Kilmarnock, but there's about 3 pages of Belfast editions here, just meticulously listed. And so they're not kind of like second-rate copy editions or anything like that. This is Belfast as part of the Burns world, a part of that community who enjoyed his writing and his language and his speech just so much.
I was slightly fuming because my ain Bonnie Angus publishes less Burns editions in the Gibson collection than bloody Belfast does. An outrage.
Well, it was massive here, and he's still treasured here. And you know, you'll come across. I mean, even in everyday speech, even though the posh, highfalutin folk get a bit sniffy when folks say I and we, you will still hear ordinary folk saying I and we all the time.
So you've actually picked out Faye, the Gibson collection. You've got James Orr there.
James Orr, the Bard of Ballycarry. On the one hand, he sings in praise to the potato, and he thinks potato is wonderful, and he is annoyed. He's annoyed. Well, we like our prutas or our spuds or our tatties, you know, we still like them. In the first verse, he has a go at tea, wealth, waste and tea. And the deeper he gets into it, the more Scots he becomes in his vocabulary. But then the very next poem, in the same edition, is entitled Tea, where he sings in praise of tea.
There's also some stuff that I hadn't ever seen before. So we ken ourselves, like we both have Scots language backgrounds. It isn't I seen as the most refined or the most highfalutin, as you say, language. It's been kind of dung down over the years by many people. This is the songs of Robert Burns translated fae Scots into Latin. Love it. Because that is saying this Scots poet is worthy of the most high status language in Europe at the time. Humble Ayrshire pluming laddie, Scots poet that means so much to us, also ringing into this other European lead to be enjoyed as far and wide as possible.
Aye.
Shows the power.
Aye.
We love him because he's kind of ours. But you can, like, these international editions show that his impact was so wide.
And Scots as a lead in its own right, not as a stepping stone between English and something else. It's on a par with other European languages.
But one of the ones I'm desperate to share is this lovely 1843 Paris edition, en français. So this is Burns' Or set into French for a mid-Victorian era French market, right? I'm going to give you a wee dose of one of the more celebrated poems, and I'm going to see if you can tell us which one it is. Okay? I'll not give you the title because I'll give the game away. Right. Béni soit votre honnête et errante face. Grand chef de la race de pudding.
Très bon. Très bon.
Et merci.
I suspect that might well be addressed to haggis.
It is en haggis. I love seeing this good, honest Scots poetry that we've enjoyed all our days being enjoyed by. You didn't get fancier than Victorian era Parisians, do you?
No, that is right. That is right. But that's his great strength, isn't it? He can appeal to the ordinary working folk as well as the high society. They get a bit of a buzz out of it too.
And that's the strength of the Gibson collection, is it lets us in 2021 commune with all these different eras of the human past and the different cultures around the world as they responded to Burns, as we fragments of the whole.
Yeah. It was almost like he was trying to preserve a whole tradition and a sense of literary importance around all this. Well, the Linen Hall Library is one of Belfast's great institutions. It really is. You know, the walls in here are lined with stories and heritage and tradition that, you know, a lot of the time doesn't get the sort of mainstream coverage that it really should have. And, you know, perceptions of Belfast are very skewed because they're so limited. This is the full breadth, you know, the whole mix of all the diversity is in here. It's a wonderful place.
The Linen Hall doesn't just safeguard this heritage, it celebrates it. Events and outreach keep its collections at the fingertips of the younger generations. Young musician Sarah Carlyle experienced a Burnsian conversion at the Linen Hall, having grown up in an Ulster-Scots community where the bard I bore the gree.
Well, everybody just sort of knows Robbie Burns when you talk about him. It's just sort of one of those things that holds a really, really special place. And I think that dates back to sort of the very, very early years of Burns' poetry being in Ulster. You know, there was sort of this idea that in a traditional Ulster-Scots household 200 years ago, there would have been two books, Burns and the Bible. That idea of having something in your own language, in your own dialect, that you can just enjoy, and it doesn't have to be translated. You don't have to be particularly, you know, even into poetry to enjoy it. It's about everyday things, and it's using everyday images that everyone can relate to. When I was very, very young, maybe 7 or 8 years old, my dad took me to the Linen Hall one Burns night, and I walked in and sort of went, wow, this was like my idea of heaven, just books everywhere, old books, just the aesthetic. I absolutely loved it and still do. And then, you know, there was food and music, and I really enjoyed all of that. And they had a Burns impersonator who I sort of started getting the crack with, and he was asking me, you know, what are you doing here, more or less? I said, well, you know, I like Burns and stuff like that. So he asked me what my favourite Burns poem was, and I said To a Mouse. So he stood up and recited it for me then, and it made me feel really special, and I've always just sort of clung to that and really enjoyed it.
Love it, love it. Love the Linen Hall, keeping that connection going, broadcasting that Burns tradition. Can I put you on the spot? How much of To a Mouse do you remember?
Oh, very little, but I could read it if I had it, yeah. But mousey, thou art no thy lane, improving foresight may be vain. The best laid schemes of mice and men gang after glee, and lay us not but grief and pain for promised joy. Still thou art blessed compared with me, the present only toucheth thee, but och, I backward cast my eye on prospects drear, and forward though I canna see, I guess and fear.
I've loved getting to know the Gibson collection a wee bit better. There's so much there that's fascinating, interesting, insightful. You can explore so many different angles to Burns and the world's reception of him through that cracking collection. But the Linen Hall is the perfect place for all that to be kept as well, because they didn't just look after it perfectly, though they do. They make sure it's reaching out through events, through publications, into the next generation. So that thread connecting the old Scotch tune of the 1700s Belfast is strong right through to today and into the future.